All right, I'm going to take a quick look at this brand new Lon Humphrey bird and trout. If I'm correct, this is the second run of these knives, and the first run of these knives, they were done in 440C, and this knife is an AEB-L. So it's a extremely fine-grained, very tough steel. And the other thing that's really important to mention compared to the older version of these knives is the stock thickness. The stock thickness on this is 125 thou. So the previous run I think was upwards of 200 or something like that. So huge difference as far as performance when it comes to slicing and stuff like that. You really don't want a overly thick blade stock when it comes to a little trout knife or bird knife. Something with a really fine tip and delicate edge is probably much more beneficial as something that you can baton through, dried wood and stuff like that. But yeah, so this one, like a lot of my other ones, is desert ironwood, and it has orange G10 liners. These pins are Corby bolts, so they are an actual bolt that screws together and mechanically fastens the handle scales to the knife itself. Unlike, say, like a Loveless style bolt, there is no threads or anything that's visible. These are like a blind head. So once the the actual slot for your screwdriver is ground off, you can't tell that they're an actual threaded bolt. I actually will one of these days I'll show you some Corby bolts. Hold on a second, I'll go get some. All right, so here are some of my Corby bolts that I use for my amateur knife making, and this is how they go together. So you've got the threaded part and then the other part here, and they thread together like so, and they bolt your handle scales to the knife. And then once they are all glued and everything's set up and the handle is shaped, the heads of these Corby bolts are ground off, so you can never tell that it's an actual Corby bolt. I've got some other ones too here, brass ones, but anyways, that's how they work. So that makes them extremely strong, and even if the glue were to let go, you've got that mechanical fastening that's holding the scales and stuff to the knife itself. The only way that these scales are coming off is if you break them. So extremely durable and tough way of constructing a knife. So I'm trying to think what else I can say about this knife in just this short little video. So this steel, this AEB-L, is a really fine-grained razor blade steel. It's made in Sweden, I think by Böhler Uderholm, or however you say that. And it's been around a long time. I think since the 30s or 40s even, it was originally developed. There's a couple of different previous versions of it, or one anyways. I think that was patented early 1920s or something like that. But if you look at the actual grain structure of this steel under like an electron microscope or whatever, it's unbelievably fine grained, compared to 440C or CPM 154 even. And keep in mind, this is a conventional steel, so it's an ingot steel. It's not a powdered metallurgical steel where it's spray formed and stuff. So the grain structure and stuff on those powdered metallurgical steels, should be every bit as fine grained as this, but this stuff is just it's incredibly fine grained, and because of that, it's incredibly tough. Like it's I can't remember how many foot-pounds as far as its Charpy chip resistant ability over CPM 154, for instance, but it's significant. It's tougher than CPM 154, it's tougher than LMAX, it's tougher than all of those, you know, CPM steels that you see in other knives like Spyderco's and, you know, all your Bark River steel, stainless steel knives. Even their new one there, the S45VN, which is basically an American version of LMAX. It's incredibly tough compared to all those steels. So you get a lot of benefit by having a simple fine grained steel versus, you know, stainless steel that's got a ton of alloy content and much higher carbide content, because that carbide actually weakens the steel, right? So if you think about it in terms of like concrete in an aggregate, those carbides are kind of like you know, the gravel that's in your concrete mix, and the main structure of the steel is the fine slurry that the concrete, the main part of the concrete that holds up all your aggregate, right? So, you know, when you don't have all those chunks of gravel to get knocked out of the concrete, you're way less susceptible to having edge damage in the form of chipping and things like that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a, you know, an oversimplified way of explaining it, but it gives you an idea as far as, you know, why that steel is so tough in comparison to, you know, something like, say, S110V or S90V or S30V. You can't even compare it. So using this knife, and, you know, say you're chopping the head of a trout off on a hard cutting board or something, right? You know, you are far less likely to actually chip your edge with this steel than you would be using a steel, especially like, say, for this one, ZDP 189, right? So it's actually a pretty fine grained steel considering what it is, but it's extremely hard and quite chippy. So in this particular setting, this is probably about the best steel choice you could make for a knife that's going to be used for, you know, trout or bird or whatever, right? So, you know, in environments where corrosion, for instance, is going to be fairly high. This steel is also extremely stainless. You know, in comparison to 440C, I think it's quite a bit more stainless than that. It's more stainless than even LMAX or S35, S35VN or CPM 154. I believe it's about 1% carbon. I can't remember what the percentage of chromium is in it. It's easily looked up though. I'm going to try and put some of those specs in the video detail section here. What else we got? I've got somewhere I have my tarpon, which is the same handle, a little bit different blade profile, obviously, same thickness. This one's in CPM 3V, so it's very tough. But that steel is not far off in some respects as far as toughness. Yeah, I have a lot of high hopes and expectations for the performance of the steel. It's the first knife I've ever had in that steel, so it's definitely going to get put to work and tested. I probably end up cutting up and filleting a few salmon here over the weekend, so if I get a chance to do that, that'll be you know, certainly a test for it, see how it performs, and more importantly, how easy it sharpens up, because I have a feeling this is going to be really easy to sharpen. And that is one of the, you know, primary things I really love about like Lon's 52-100 is, you know, not only the edge retention and the toughness, but just how easy it is to sharpen. And from what I've heard of this steel is that it's very similar. It's basically like a stainless version of 52-100. So if it, you know, comes anywhere near close to, you know, the performance that I've experienced with, you know, his blades in 52-100, I'm going to be extremely happy. So high hopes, and, you know, my initial impressions of this is that it is a winner. And thin blade stock, high-end stainless steel, very sharp. Like, I mean, when you feel that edge, you can tell, you know, just in that initial bite, into your fingers there. Just, you know, the nature of the steel, right? Just how fine-grained it is. It's kind of hard to explain if you've never experienced it, but you can certainly tell that that steel has some crazy potential to get even a lot sharper than this. A really fine, crisp, you know, sharp edge. So, and yeah, beautiful piece of wood on this one. Really, I'm sure the video and the pictures do not do it justice, but just incredible figuring. I don't have great lighting in here, and I don't have great camera gear. One of the reasons I haven't done any videos lately is my new phone here. The optical image stabilization decided to crap the bed when I put it on a handlebar mount on my motorbike, because these new ones don't take to the vibration, so I had to get it fixed. So now that I have it fixed, you'll probably see a few more videos from me. Anyways, another thing too is if you guys, you know, have watched, you know, a number of my videos, see any of my knives, and you want to see, you know, like a comparison directly, say, between this knife and say the Tarpon, for instance, leave those comments in the comment section. And, you know, if I get time, I'm going to try and, you know, respond to those comments with a video that's directed to those particular people that, you know, say, hey, I want to see this knife and I want to see it next to this knife. You know, if it helps you guys make a decision as far as, you know, purchasing a knife, I'd be happy to do that. You know, and if you have questions or suggestions as far as what you'd like to see in these videos, feel free to leave them in the comments. Obviously, I'm not going to go out and destroy my knives, but, you know, if you say, hey, I'd like to see how this knife performs cutting, you know, trimming, whatever, right? You know, cutting through cardboard or cutting through this or cutting through that, or, you know, how does it work as far as whittling or whatever, just, you know, leave those comments in the section, or the comment section, and I'll definitely read and reply and see what I can do. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hope you guys enjoy the video.